Just wait a few seconds to make sure the audio is good. It should be good.
Wait, is it live here? Wait, is it live here? Oh, I think I see it.
Should be live. Audio should be good.
Hang on. Wait, I think I see it. Yes. Fantastic. All right, I think we're good. Heard. That's funny. All right. Let's check the top chat, live chats. Just got to organize that again. Perfect. Now we simply wait for people to arrive. For anyone who happens to be arriving to the stream, welcome. Which is still, I guess we're not setting up necessarily. We're set up at this point. Maybe you should have put a video description in for that. Oh well. Oh wait, I put the wrong thing in for the channel. Let me add the role. There we go. I completely forgot to add the role. That might be why no one got the notice. Oh, that was quite the sneeze. It was like dying inside of my nose. Okay, so now I've added the rule, people should be aware of the stream starting now. It's like 5 people reacted to it when I previously put it in there. So people acknowledged that the stream was happening like 5 hours ahead of time. Granted, one of those was me, but like that would still mean like 4 other people were aware of it. So kind of a bit confused. I'm gonna restart the. There we go. Hello, I just came from the store. Oh, hello, Pimp Demon. I wasn't actually expecting you first. I was expecting a few others. Now that someone has arrived, more people are probably going to start showing up. How you doing, Pimp Demon? I bet they white. What does that have to do with their ability to show up on time? or at all. That also doesn't answer my question. This sounds like a deflection. I'm doing good. I finished the Doctor Who story. That doesn't surprise me. You have been reading a lot of Doctor Who. Nothing, it's just that they're always white. That doesn't... Are you just saying this because you have like the Discord like white mode? Is it everything always white to you? Visually? There we go. Now it should be set up properly. All right, perfect. Well, when a few people get here, I'm going to start talking about the scans for the previous Protagonist swap. These are, as usual, these streams are done to explain information that I released for the 4 Protagonist swaps that we are doing / have done regarding a group of Halo characters being put in a Warhammer scenario and a group of Warhammer characters being put in Halo scenarios, specifically like 2 sets of games. I know, it's just that the expo for Neo, potentially Zim, and everyone here is, except for Neo, potentially Zim, everyone here is like, oh, okay, I guess. A weird fixation with that. I came. Oh, hello, it's you. So yeah, this is the third stream. So this is covering Titus's squad. Well, this is covering the scans and the claims that I made about the third video regarding Titus's squad when he was put through the events of Halo 5 Guardians. So obviously, if you haven't watched that video, you're not going to know what the hell I'm talking about. You're just going to sit here and be very confused. So 10 down, that counts. Saying I came is so much weirder than just saying I'm here. I don't want to hear that from the guy that's like genuinely one of the weirdest people here. But anyway, I think we have enough people here to where I can start. If you guys are ready. Actually, let me grab that channel to make sure that I have the right ones that I was looking at. Oh, perfect. So, as usual, I usually provide a list of sources for what I was going for to explain claims that I made in the video. First one was that I was explaining where the Prometheans originally came from. Here's a question: how did the Didact react to the Space Marines? They were not in Halo 4, so there was no Didact. Well, okay, I guess technically the Didact is there during the events of Halo 5, but like he's mostly focused all of his time and effort on dealing with the Cryptum, like the actual crypt, so he wouldn't really be paying attention to anyone outside of like what's involved with the crypt. I don't think he even acknowledges the existence of... Well, okay, I think he mentions Exuberant Witness, but he doesn't really like mention Fireteam Osiris at all. But anyway, turn on my camera and start using a few of these sources. So let me show you guys a little bit of what I have. So today's video will have, I think, mainly these 3: Halo Epitaph, the Encyclopedia, Hunters in the Dark, the Essential Visual Guide, Halo 5's Guidebook, and then probably Halo Bad Blood for most of them. I did have other sources there with First Strike and Ghosts of Onyx, but they did not pan out as well as I thought because I did not find the correct page. So we're going to go and look for the source I'm finding here. This is the 2022 edition or whatever. There's only one edition of this technically. So I was just providing this source to point out that like Prometheans technically are an elite raid of warrior servants, and they specifically serve like the Didact. They're not actually meant to be like the Forerunner caste things that you see in Halo 4 and Halo 5, they're at least the ones that are inside of like night bodies. Those are actual like forerunners with their souls composed into like a specific manner. I believe there are additional statements given here. Them later. Oh yes. Well, I'll get to those in a moment. Oh, never mind. That's literally the second source. Third source is, I believe, Armature bodies. Oh, not Armature bodies. Was it Armature armor? Wow. Live cam of the source. Wow, my baby. Who is that in reference to? The Prometheans? Yeah, I do typically give live cams of the source. Second source is just for. Well, actually, hang on. Let me go to the other. There we go. I put Discord up on my phone and YouTube up on my computer. So I basically claimed that all the Promethean suits were just like the Promethean troops, like the soldiers, crawlers, and drones, were all just AIs and armatures in a suit of armor. This is generally like proven by most of the statements that they have in the novels, but also like the guidebooks. The guidebooks just basically tell you the Promethean soldiers you see here, all of them and all their variants, as well as any of like the Watchers or the crawlers, are all just like AI combat and Soas, or primitive versions of like dumb AI. I think the Armatures are just dumb AIs that are intended to pacify like worlds. None of these are actually like full Forerunner soldiers. Note they have the full Forerunner complement of like weapons. They actually have like the lowest of the low weapons, and they're not even like at the full capacity of the Forerunner Empire. Not really. Now the Daleks. Not Epitaph, but also the Daleks. What do the Daleks have to do with this? Completely unnecessary. I'm gonna go for like another hour today. Probably just about an hour until Zim gets back, and I'll probably be done with the sources. And then after that, I'm gonna hop off and start talking about like Warhammer, as I said before, because I just finished a bunch of novels, so I really want to go talk about that. Third source I provided was just the general length of time it takes to get through the Forerunner Armature armor. Because I believe I claimed that bolter rounds could get through it just because the Armature drones were a lot less durable. Their main thing was like numbers. I believe in the sources that I provided, there are a couple different examples of this in Hunters in the Dark. Yeah, I believe a elite is capable of cutting through him pretty easily, and there's also other examples of the rifles and the battle rifles basically going straight through the biped's like head and the Arbiter's head and essentially destroying him. But I also found out some other things that I wasn't prepared to look for. So apparently, the Forerunner Armatures, according to what this novel says, can actually block bullets midair. Like in the scene in question in the Halo Hunters in the Dark, like these researchers are essentially like walking through a specific section of the arc, and they run into the Armatures, and they decide to start shooting at them. One of them is shooting at them with his explosive, like, Halo 1 pistol, and the Armatures actually don't have, like, hardlight rifles. They have combat staves, which are basically their equivalent of, like, glaives, and they start spinning them, and they just start deflecting the bullets, apparently. I completely missed that, and I thought, oh, maybe that just happens like one time. Actually, it doesn't just happen one time. There's an elite in the novel that does the same thing to the hard light weapons. He actually starts deflecting and blocking the hard light weapons like mid shot. Now, granted, they're not like, some of them aren't like as powerful because some of them are like they're like bolt shots and scatterbursts and whatnot, but like he's still blocking what is basically akin to like subsonic rounds and stuff like that really easily. So it's my assumption that the main reason they're capable of doing that is easily not just because the elites are fast enough, but it's mainly because of the fact that hard light weapons are bright orange and yellow. So it's actually really easy to see them because they're extremely lit up like a Christmas tree. You're going to have a very difficult time not spotting them. So your eyes will know where to put things. Whereas like blocking a bullet is technically a lot harder because a bullet is a very not so conventional color. It's more like gray, copper, brown, sometimes like just a darker, mundane color. It doesn't catch the eyes as easily as something that's like bright red or yellow. And then what racial extermination, just like the Imperium, that doesn't really say much. A lot of sci-fi series want to wipe people out of existence just because of their race. Battle rifles are like 30 times better than a bolter. I wouldn't say they're like 30 times better than the bolter, but they're tactically better than a bolter in most cases. Bolter's kind of like a little bit messy. But anyway, that's the source for that. So, like, you can technically destroy armored drones with things that are significantly less powerful than what it takes to go through energy shields and typical Forerunner armor, because the armored drones aren't actually wearing standard Forerunner combat armor. They're wearing something significantly weaker than that. Which even then, they can still technically take multiple rounds from like plasma weapons and UNSC weapons before they fall, so their armor's not bad. It's just nowhere near as impressive as Forerunner armor. I believe there's also additional sources that I had to provide here for one of these for the ammunition types. This is the same sources I was using before, the Halo Encyclopedia. So this is technically two sources, but pretty much everything that the Forerunners bring is either of the it's of one of three different types. It's either light mass, which would be just the light rifles and the suppressors, or it's like ionized particles, which is like the scatter shots, the bolt shot. Yeah, I think that's it, pretty much. And then, or like the heat wave, I guess, but we're not counting the heat wave or the cinder shot, really. Or the incineration cannon and the binary rifle, which are all referred to as like ionized antiparticles. I was just providing this to point out that like the Forerunner weapons are technically three different types of ammunition that are all made of different properties. So your armor needs to show that it can actually resist all of these things, and that is one of the sources I pointed out, is that like they wouldn't be able to do this. So here you go. That's where I got it from. Well, there's also other guides that say the same thing. Yeah, that's why they're called drones. Yeah, I'm aware. I am totally aware. Fifth one was to provide a source that indicates what the Promethean weapons do when they hit your body. This is kind of self-explanatory if you've seen like any Halo game ever, but like there is a direct statement about it in Halo Bad Blood. So as Buck directly points out when he's describing some of the weapons here, and this is after the events of Halo 5 when their Fire Team Osiris and Blue Team is looking around for a dropship. He basically says that they saw bodies everywhere, but they spotted a helmet from the Marine. And he just says, like, yeah, I know what she meant. Like, the Forerunner weapons didn't just kill you, they obliterated you. It's like you simply evaporated into glowing energy crystals that faded into nothing faster than your last breath. There were certainly powerful machines that the brains at Oni were still trying to figure out. There wasn't anyone in the Pelican, not even a remnant of them, that left behind. They say similar stuff like this in the Halo Infinite multiplayer. if you equip the AI from the Banished, I don't remember what his name is. He actually says when you equip the heat wave and you shoot someone with it, he says it either burns or tears through flesh and soul. Pretty much all the promotional material for the games and every cutscene has demonstrated that, like, when you kill Promethean Knights or things like this, their body just like completely, the matter just completely disintegrates or gets like itemized. It's just gone. It's total obliteration. Bad blood, bad blood. What you got to do when they come for you? No, that's not what that is. You fool. Yeah, Bad Blood actually has a decent amount of sources, but oh yeah, there was other examples of the sources that the Promethean soldiers teleport. I believe I showed some of them, but like I'll show this one again just because I can. I believe in the first page they point out that they have forms of teleportation when the bipeds are originally the first time they show up in the lore, which technically, insofar as like I want to say the books is concerned, that actually is just Hunters in the Dark. I believe Hunters in the Dark actually happens is the first time the UNSC ever encounters the Prometheans. So they just say that they're basically just teleporting or displacing themselves. In the games, the Arbiters can teleport and then they can teleport again, and they can just keep teleporting over and over and over again just because they can. I know I am, but what are you? I'm the guy that's currently sourcing things, and you're a person just being silly in the chat. I had to provide a source of what splinter grenades do. I think I just did this just because I mentioned splinter grenades, but splinter grenades in general, where are they? Let me see if I can find them. There they are. Yeah, splinter grenades in general just like completely obliterate you. As the description of this points out, that they're intended by warrior servants to indiscriminately cauterize flood redoubts on contested worlds to recover things compromised by the parasite. So they're just like they're intended as like an ionization pulse, and that anything in the case of individual life forms will be completely disintegrated. Now, I assume it's usually a little bit more than that because they're all destroyed in the exact same way that normal stuff is, and considering the Forerunners have a habit of like creating and making matter, I just assume they're itemizing them rather than destroying their constituent molecules, since most of their weapons and even things from like other like monitors consistently itemize people. So I would just say they're generally destroying the atoms of their body rather than just destroying them on the molecular level. But either way, you kind of have to have like armor to protect that. Well, I think I tried my best. That wasn't a compliment. Splinter grenades teleport. Haven't you watched Red versus Blue? Actually, those were pulse grenades, which are not the same thing. Yeah, pulse grenades are the ones from Halo 4 that basically cause like an ionization field, whereas splinter grenades leave behind like small ionized pulses. There's a slight difference between the two of these things. Not that much of a difference, though. Why is this taking so long to back up? Oh. Okay. Oh yeah. think I had another source here to indicate what an essence was, because I never really got to talk about that. I mean, I didn't get to go into too much detail initially with the video, but basically, according to what the composer is stated to have in the Halo Encyclopedia, that it just reduces a living being into a collection of data through a process a painful destructive process charitably called sublimation. And it essentially takes a essence, which is like the soul, and converts it into sort of a neurophysics based pattern. That's what it does. It basically makes like a quantum entanglement imprint of like what you are, and that is referred to as a pattern. The essence is essentially the soul, but the pattern is an essence that has been given ties to neurophysics itself, whereas the soul doesn't naturally have ties to the consciousness of the universe. It's just like a quantum construct, but when it gets made into sort of a quantum entanglement process and then converted into neurophysics directly, it becomes connected to the essence of the domain through direct process rather than through conversion. Essentially, if you die in Halo, your soul goes to the domain naturally, and then it gets converted with new properties, whereas that's not actually what happens if you get composed. If you get composed, you're just converted into what the domain was going to do to you anyway. Mangler, one unrelated question. Shoot. Would magic bypass the flood infection? Depends on the magic. And DBZ, why does everyone say Frieza was afraid of the Saiyans? Afraid the Saiyans could overtake him with a little amount of time. They never could have trained enough to beat him before Frieza killed them. Would you just use the Zenkai argument that Frieza is supposed to represent evil, while Saiyan's soul represents willpower and never giving up? Okay, so that's like two questions, but I'm assuming it's the first one. Is why was Frieza afraid of them? Because Frieza was afraid of the legend. Frieza was afraid of the idea that like any potential race that's like built for battle could eventually become powerful enough to threaten him. And that's probably primarily because some of the strongest Saiyans, I think, were still like stronger than most of his forces aside from his right and left hand men being Dodoria and Zarbon and the Ginyu Force. So there was like no one else. They were stronger than all his average soldiers, and to be fair, like those people were like the height of his like power. So if you got up to that level, you were definitely like way stronger than you should have been. Like just using like basic logic, like any race that can produce fighters that are stronger than your average soldiers are going to unnerve you when you're like a tyrant, because there are billions of them there, and they get stronger the more they fight. Like just the sheer basic premise of the Saiyan race is going to make him like really paranoid, especially when you consider that like they're lauding the idea that there's an ultra powerful Super Saiyan of legend among them that's way stronger than the rest of them, that one day it will be fulfilled. Which, if that's true, that person would be many, many times stronger than the strongest Saiyan the race has ever produced. He could actually be strong enough to fight Frieza. So Frieza is terrified with good reason. Going by that super manga, ironically, Bardock was like a Ginyu Force level even without the Great Ape. I wouldn't conclude that, because that makes no sense in the logic of the series. It always made more sense to use Bardock, the father of Goku, than it was the super manga. The super manga kind of like ruined a little bit of like Bardock's appeal, because him fighting Gas at that point made absolutely no sense. Then again, Dragon Ball makes less sense the longer it goes on, because Frieza's entire empire, by its very nature, pretty much proves that most species shouldn't have been able to reach up to his level, and yet after the Frieza saga, it seems every species that we run into is up to Frieza's level. Or way beyond Frieza. Not. What do I know? Oh yeah. Now I gotta get some sources for the Warden Eternal. Halo 5 Guardians, was it Epitaph, a few other things as well. I have one of them here, but basically in that video, I stated that Warden Eternal could essentially fire like a little orb at you that would just like obliterate you. So this is the source that I used. It's from the Halo 5 guidebook. And the orb, it actually says in the description for Warden Eternal that if the orb finds its mark, the target is quickly obliterated. The blast is so severe that it even penetrates thin forms of cover. It's just like the blast in question is just like, it looks like a black hole. That's all it is. It's just like a little core, a little singularity core that he fires at you. And anything it touches dies. And it's also the size of like his head, which is like the size of, you know, and abnormally, well, I say it's the size of a football, but it's actually more like the size of, to put it in perspective, it's probably like the size of an atomic bomb, or like half the size of an atomic bomb, because his head is like way bigger than normal. Well, except cell infusions. Those would make sense. I mean, I guess, yeah. Well, actually, the fusions don't really make sense, because that would also mean there was yet another race in the universe that Frieza didn't know about. But I mean, I never considered Frieza to be a reliable source of what was considered powerful in his universe, because he was only really the self-proclaimed ruler of the universe. It wasn't really like as self-indicative as he claimed it to be. Anyway, let me see if I can find some of the examples here. So I'll pull up my computer to show what this one looks like. But yeah, let me go and grab these. So basically, during the game, Cortana, I also made a claim that Warden Eternal basically has a few million bodies. This is what Cortana says during Halo 5, is that she's like warning the Master Chief that he essentially has one mind spread among a few million bodies. There are other statements in Halo Epitaph as well that he basically has like an infinite number of copies. This is during the war of the domain, when the composed essences and people are fighting the Didact. He's basically battling everybody outside of the domain to keep them from crossing the natal void. And one of the Didact's like former warrior servants basically says, like, the bastard is an army of one, spits out copy after copy of himself, infinite copies. We had no way to win, no way to outmaneuver him. We tried, we lost. We lost nearly half the population we had here in the beginning. Now, he could just be like speaking like hyperbolically. But whenever they use the term infinite or endless in the context of Epitaph, it is almost always literal. Actually, it is pretty much always literal, because they just say it over and over and over and over and over again, so I don't have any reason to believe that's untrue. I just assume that the Warden Eternal can only produce a few million bodies in the physical world, but in the domain, he is not, like, limited. Now, technically, for the scenario, he would only get the few million bodies, but honestly, even like 20 bodies would be too much for like most people. Are they, though? Except for Gas and the other guy who made a wish to become stronger. What if the alien actually reached Frieza's level? Yes, I know Moral exists, but it's explain why he's stronger. What if you kill a Warden's body, it doesn't actually disappear, they just simply get fixed, so it looks like he has infinite bodies? I mean, for all intents and purposes, that's basically infinite, though, that you just never run out. I'm just saying that in the domain, he'd be capable of making as many as he wants, because he's tied to the domain's framework. Because the domain made his bodies based on the template of life that was taken from the Herapis race. Oh, that also reminds me. Let me get that other source. As the Herapis explains here, when she's explaining how... this is the source that I was going to provide for explaining what the Warden Eternal is. because I wanted to explain how his power works. The Herapist basically says that a life worker's attributes of genetic code are quite extraordinary. Mutations are passed upon generations for generations from the very beginning of forward civilization. Life workers are basically connected and predisposed to living time, and so are Herapists connected to the domain. So the domain basically needed a template from which to start again after the Halo array blew through most of its quantum information. And that's how it made Warden Eternal, because Warden Eternal is, as he puts it, it's what's left of my raid. Herapist essences gathered by in the millions, gathered in haste by a damaged domain. Much like the life template Trial gave to revive the repository, they became a hasty, imperfect template to create a protector. So that's essentially what Warden Eternal is. He is a collective makeup of millions of quantum soul constructs formed into a single being designed to guard the domain. So you can't really that's why I said you can't really kill him under normal circumstances, because just go back to the domain and just come back with 1,000 bodies. Oh, hello, Jeremy. How you doing? Cell voice actor is dead. Oh, that's unfortunate. Wait, which one? There were aren't there multiple? I'm almost done with the sources I have here. Yeah, I have only a few more. Man, I was supposed to make this last an hour. How much time have I? How much time have I dragged this on? So let me go over here. $36. I mean, I could play a game if it really came down to time. English, Pim, there are multiple English things. Oh no, you also mean Plankton's VA too? I was actually going to ask, did the guy that voices Plankton the same guy that voices Cell? Because they've always sounded very similar. I don't know if that's actually a joke or if that's the person. Dale Wilson? I don't know who that is. That's not as self-explanatory as you'd like to believe. At least not to me. Yeah, that should be enough. I only have probably 4 more I have to show. So there was one more source I was going to provide for Warden Eternal, then I can move on to the next one, which was the type of weapon that he had. So I pointed out that he basically had a light blade in the video. I mentioned that he also had something known as a quantum blade. A quantum blade, as is explained by Epitaph, is essentially something that's meant to cut through essences. So this is from Halo Epitaph, as usual. And as the Herapist basically explains, which he gives him a quantum blade, it's that while the void acts as a deterrent, wardens have struck down forward essences from the valley when necessary, especially during the early years when the Halo array was fired, and many have tried to force their way in. This cannot be achieved with a simple light sword, which is so effective in the physical realm. As you have experienced yourself, light blades only wound. Killing an essence completely requires a quantum blade. There's a previous point, I think earlier in the chapter, where he goes into the domain and he gets attacked by them, and he specifically says that in this quantum state, the warden's slashing blades had the unique ability to cut through his neural pattern and the quantum framework on which it rested. So you can essentially say that the light blade is meant to destroy the matter of an object, and the quantum blade is intended to destroy the fabric of your existence. So technically, while the Warden Eternal wouldn't be using Quantum Blade during the events of Halo 5, he has a Quantum Blade. When he pulls out that giant sword, that's mostly a hard light sword, but if he wanted to, he could technically summon the Quantum Blade. Now, I'm also kind of assuming he's not actually using it. I thought Cell and Plankton had the same VA, but no. I just googled it. Yeah, they were very similar. Makes sense. He did the ocean dub. Oh, yeah. All the people who did the ocean dub seem to be dying off. Yeah, like this isn't the first notification I think we've gotten about that. I think a lot of the ocean dub VAs for Dragon Ball Z have actually started dying very recently. This is like a consistent trend at this point. I think the narrator died. Obviously, Cell died. I think there were like a few other ones that also died. Anyway, yeah, rest in peace. So I did also basically say that the Mjolnir armor is shielded from some forms of EMPs. This is stated in Halo Bad Blood. So let me go if I can see if I can go find it. Right here. Aha. So as this is right after the Guardian hits and basically knocks these characters out of like a specific area that they're in. And Buck basically says that any civilized place in the galaxy, the whole of the wall, its entire infrastructure relied on energy. To see it drain from the place was like watching the city die. There were exceptions, fortunately. Not everything lost power. Our Mjolnir armor, for instance, didn't seem to directly suffer from the attack, for which I was grateful. Otherwise, we Spartans would have been trapped inside 500 kilos of gear. So, yeah, the Mjolnir suits don't seem to be affected by the Guardian's EMP blasts. And I was just pointing that out that, like, this is what the EMP blasts do. Most civilizations don't recover from this. There were only, like, a few exceptions to this, that being the Mjolnir one. So, there you go. And then there was one more that I was going to provide. This one actually came from this was after I had finished talking about the scenario, because I believe if you watched the video that I presented, I pointed out that the Space Marines in Titus's squad would make it to about Mission 6. And then I hypothetically went over like what would happen if they went through the other missions. Oh, no, not Mission... I don't think it was Mission 6 or it was Mission 5, one of them, when they were on Meridian. And I pointed out that in evacuating Meridian, when they evacuate the glassed world, they actually have to get into a Pelican, which they can't fly, and in the process they would probably fall to their demise. And Zim thought that's a little silly because like the Space Marines wouldn't die from falling, and I was like, well, actually we have some examples of that from The Wolf of Ash and Fire, which is a Warhammer novel. So they basically tell you in this that this is during a battle on the way to like Olinor in the Olinor system, is that Horus is essentially fighting with the Emperor and fighting like a bunch of orcs, and he jumps into this compartment area that's been fallen to pieces on this station that they're on, and he falls like many stories down to the ground. And it basically says that Horus is essentially able to follow his father and endure impacts that would have killed even Legionary. But his members of his his Justerian, and his, I'm not pronouncing that correctly, and the Lego Custodes basically followed him anyway, and most of them just died. So it basically says he saw Justerian incinerated by a gout of plasma fire bellowing from ruptured conduct. Custodians who dropped into arcing dives were smashed by falling debris or deforming structural elements. Their limp, lifeless bodies followed him down into the depths. So basically, like, if a Custody or like a Space Marine tries to jump like a certain distance, they will actually just be killed by the fall. It will just crush them, or they'll be crushed by like debris. Beginning area. Luckily, the other voice actor is still alive, aka Handsome Jack. I watch you all the time videos. Is Zim not Zim? Zim's not here at the moment. No, only me. He's in the restroom right now, taking care of his business. He'll be done in probably. Give me one moment. We'll determine the length of time. At the earliest, 20 minutes. Maybe a little bit longer than that. If I do not, well, actually, if he doesn't
you're
get
actually
done,
wrong. I've been done for like the last 15 minutes. I was just taking care of some chores. I actually got home.
you fucking fraud.
Luckily, I did not need the whole time. So, yes.
Look at this guy telling me he needed all this time and it didn't even take him that long.
To to
Fraudulent behavior.
to be fair, I gave you like the sort of like worst case scenario estimate just in case like I didn't want to tell you like 30 minutes and then I was still in there for like
That's
an hour 30.
I approve of giving me an exaggerated time frame. That's actually very smart. Always give people more time than you actually need. Mm.
So what's going on here?
I was just explaining I was explaining for one of my last sources how like at the end of the Halo 5s or not near the end of the Halo 5 scenario when the Space Marines have to leave the Meridian and they have to jump into a Pelican, they probably wouldn't survive the fall. And I was remarking how I think you mentioned that it would be weird that they wouldn't survive or something like that. And I was like, well, here's an example from Wolf of Ash and Fire where Horus drops out of an area to go find the Emperor, and the Custodes, and obviously like his loyal members of the Justinian or the Justarine, whatever they're called, they're basically like Horus's honor guard that protects him from the Luna Wolves. They obviously follow him because they're not going to leave their lord anywhere, and they just die on the fall downwards. They just die from falling like a few floors. It just kills them. So,
He didn't do anything to protect his honor guard.
well, no. So what happened was that he saw his father fall in there. He saw his father disappear, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to go in after his father." And it's like, "Oh, this will be easy." But then, like, they died on the way down because they tried to follow him. Because they were killed by like falling debris and things that were in there. And, like, even the Custodes die because obviously the Custodes are not going to leave the Emperor anywhere. If the Emperor disappears, they're going to go to wherever his last known location is. That's their duty. But pretty much all of them died in the process. Only Horus made it, and the rest of them had to go downstairs in shame.
How do jump packs work in that universe? Then do they stay active the
They
whole
did.
jump?
Yes, they didn't have jetpacks. They just jumped down there and the force just killed them. Most of them didn't even hit the bottom. They hit things on the way to the bottom and the force killed them. So they hit things in the shaft on the way down. Now, to be fair, some of them got incinerated. Some of them got incinerated by plasma, so that's not the same.
You tell me
But
that
many of them
anything
didn't.
at terminal velocity will kill them?
I'm saying their own body hitting them at terminal velocity will kill them. So
Also, Righto, I have not seen the Galactica Night or the versus Virgil G1 blog. I saw you posted a comment about it in one of the streams, but I have not gone to check it out yet.
imagine what the UNSC could do with Promethean armor if they didn't disappear. I'm not sure what they would be able to scavenge though, because like whenever they destroy the Prometheans, they just kind of fall into bits and pieces. But yeah, I mean that would be very valuable. Yeah, I think I saw that. I think someone posted that, but I don't know anything about what's his face, Galagonite,
I'm pretty
Galactonite.
sure. I'm pretty sure it's more so just to check out the. I'm pretty sure it's been recommended to us just to check out the DMC side. I'm sure the Kirby side is fine. Kirby's a character most people agree on if you scale long enough that he's some sort of like fucking cosmic horror like creature. Although he can't just swarm
Eldritch
or kill you,
horror.
that's wrong.
Yes. Yeah, it's usually the DMC side that's contentious because no one that really scales DMC ever really gets all the facts straight.
I mean, I'm sure being reasonable, they probably have Virgil at like light speed and probably Uni Plus. Probably.
Oh. Oh.
I don't expect them to have them MFTL or anything.
That ain't reasonable. Anything below infinite is not reasonable.
Knows him? Oh, it's worse than I thought. They might only have Virgil at like fucking planet level. Gross.
Hmm.
They have him at Quintillion C. The fuck?
That's actually worse because that's a specific range. You
Hold on.
can't justify that.
Yeah, where the fuck did Quintillion C come from? I've never even seen the calc for that. Alright, well I guess that'll be something to look at later.
Uh,
Alright, so
Overall,
then that
I think that's
probably
everything I have.
alright, that's fine. That probably means they have a Galaxy Knight win. They don't buy the infinite arguments. Okay, so why do they buy Quintillion C then? That's where I'm confused. It's like fucking it's like planet and galaxy level DMC all over again. Like, where's the logic there?
To be fair, G1 never bothered with anything like infinite range because they just don't like infinite DMC. It just makes them uncomfortable. Haters gotta hate.
I know, Pimp Demon. I know. Mangler, think about Dementius ideology of God retcon for Marvel.
I don't know what any of that is.
Basically, the one above all is no longer the supreme god of Marvel. There's a supreme god above him, and then in 10 years there'll be a supreme god above this one. It's comics did not do well. Fans
Are
are
you
pissed.
telling me they added an extension on to the Defenders Beyond idea where the one of Babal is sitting in the House of Ideas and he's like, there's something that's coming and it's like a crown up there and I'm like, bro, there's not someone but beyond you. Don't tell me that's not just a story you wrote. If they actually committed to that idea, that's trash. Marvel is now ruined in terms of its cosmic hierarchy. The whole point of him being one above all is to be the one above all.
Hang
The
on,
name is itself indicative.
hang on. Does that mean we now get pre-retcon one above all?
I am the true god. You were dealing with nothing but a fraud.
I don't know. Comics have just gotten worse with time has gone on. Ironically, comic IPs have done better in video games that tell their stories, but whatever. Um, yeah. So, here's an amazing tip for watching shows. Don't care about the message. No, just be based.
Yes.
But yeah.
I will. I was gonna say, were we into the stream now? Or
Yeah. I'll say we can end the stream now. I'll look at that G1 blog either later today or tomorrow, depending on when if Daniel still wants to chat tonight. Unfortunately, he had a little accident.
yes. I was gonna say that I told everyone in the server that I will. I read a bunch of Warhammer novels over the past week, so I'm gonna go hop in the server. If anyone wants to talk about them, feel free. I'll tag anyone that has the role, and then you just show up. We'll just talk about my findings. I read like 6 different novels, so there should be a lot that you have to listen to. So even if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. You just show up and listen. I've got a lot to speak of.
All right, sounds good. If you're in my server and guys want to talk some more Warhammer, go ahead and talk to Mangler. If not, we'll go in and end the stream here. Thank you guys for your time as always. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys on the next stream or video. Take care, everybody.